I would go to our dearest guest, Dr. Tariq Ramadan. And I did not introduce you because you were still before you walked into the room. So very quickly, I'll give you a brief bio for Dr. Tariq. He is a Swiss academic and writer. And he's also a professor of contemporary Islamic studies in the Faculty of Oriental Studies at Oxford University. He also teaches at the Oxford Faculty of Theology. He is visiting professor at the Faculty of Islamic Studies in Qatar and director of the Research Center of Islamic Legislation and Ethics in Qatar. He advocates the study and reinterpretation of Islamic text and emphasizes the heterogeneous nature of the Western Muslim. Something extremely beautiful about the philosophy and the method of Dr. Tariq's addressing to the community. I was definitely one of the people who were fascinated by his way of addressing our situation as Muslims who live in the West. I mean, how many of you know a Swiss Muslim? I mean, maybe the only person from Switzerland that is Muslim that we know, right? But the fact that we all relate, that we live as a minority in a non-Muslim majority country, that's what we'd like to get from you, Dr. Tariq. The same question. This word, this earth, this land is a trust, and we've been entrusted with. How do we see us doing this job? And how can we make it better?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Sorry for being late. I got the question and as you were asking us to add to what was said, because I agrees with what I heard. I think that what you just said at the beginning, it's important, is failing or succeeding is the way we put it. We should be very cautious with this, and there is something which is missing with our community, which in fact it's everywhere in the Quran. The Quran is a revelation and at the same time is a dhikr, remembrance. Remembrance means remember God, but you also need to have a sense of history. And when you have a sense of history, you understand that if you look at what is happening in the West, for example, who would have thought 50 years ago that we would be at the point we are now, with Muslims and young Muslims getting their religion and trying to be good Muslims? So I think that with a perception of this history, you know, Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui was one of the first, not only in the States, but also in Europe, in touch, and I know this from my own family. They started, you know, in a very modest way, trying to get places to pray. Look at what is happening now. So I think that we need to be optimistic as to time and demanding as to now. What we have to do is what are our shortcomings, our weaknesses, and for this, the starting point is out, or through your question, is a deep understanding of the Islamic message. And I would say on this that even the concept of peace is easy to say, very difficult to fulfill, very difficult to achieve. And it's a multidimensional concept. And this is why I think that if we want to assess our situation, we should look at peace as an objective and think about the conditions of peace. And from the very beginning, what we understand in Islam is that التسخير, for example, سخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض, and that the verse that was quoted here is that إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. All these verses are telling us, look, you are in this world, you are in this universe, in this creation, on earth with a specific responsibility, and we keep on repeating لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ, in order for you to be witness to your message before people. What does it mean? It means that as much as we know what we want to do, which is to please Allah, because at the end, the verse in Surah Al-Fajr that is connecting al-nafs al-mutma'inna is rid Allah, is to please Allah and to be pleased by the fact that He's pleased with us. Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna. And then the dimension is rid Allah, meaning that we should understand that the very beginning is not because you call for peace that all the people are going to be happy with you. It's not because you are positive in this society, you call for peace, and it's very paradoxical. And this is what the messengers, all the messengers of the Prophet ﷺ, got himself from the very beginning. He got that. He called for peace, and he has people say, we're not going to let you do that. Because when you call for peace, it's heard as you call for power. And we call to serve, and people think that we call to take over. And this is exactly the point that we have to get. And I would say, getting this from the very beginning, it's not because you are nice that all the people are welcoming. It's not because you smile that all the people are going to smile. It's not because you call for peace that you are not going to face war and rejection. It means what? Be ready. Be ready, but knowing what are the conditions of peace, why you should go beyond what the people, and this is why the essence of everything is rid Allah. The Prophet ﷺ come to serve the people. They wanted to kill him, and he told them, put the sun in my right, and I'm not going to stop. You know why? Because I am going to serve you even against your will for power. I'm here to serve you for him. It means here that we have to understand, don't translate, we have lots of talks about peace. Look at what is happening around the world. Peace, yes, peace. And the people, they want to talk about peace, they are not ready to talk about power. They want to talk about peace, they are not going to talk about education. There is no peace without education. So we'll have to look at all the conditions. And I would say the first condition. The Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina. And he knew, arriving in Medina, that war was going to come. And he said, Ifshu salam, spread peace. But what was the first thing that he was saying? If you look at the concentric circles, he was saying, At'imu ta'am. Meaning what? There will be no peace on earth if you don't give the people the basic rights. They have the right to eat, they have the right to drink, they have the right to homes. I'm not talking about Africa. I'm talking about the United States of America. You will not get peace in this society if you don't care about the people who are poor in this society. And the very beginning of this, كَلَّا بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمَ. Meaning that every human being, if you want her or him to be at peace, you need to get that as something which is essential, basic needs. This is one. The second is education. Why is it important, education? Because it's not only intellectual education. Be careful. Anyone now is telling you in our societies, education is about getting your degrees is wrong. Education first for us is inner peace, salamatin nafs. And salamatin nafs is alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, consistency. This is education. For us, this kind of get knowledge without getting behavior doesn't work with us. Why? Because you will not get this salamatin nafs. So education is about this. And then educating your intellect, because your intellect has rights on you. Means you have to come with this education. In Islam is one of the basic rights, so is one of the conditions. So where are we as Muslims when it comes to serving the people, when it comes to poverty, needs and basic needs? Second, education, intellectual and spiritual. And this is where we need to do much more than what we are doing. We are doing a lot. Lots of schools we are doing. We have our brothers and sisters now much more educated than when we were before. The problem is, are you educated to serve or are you educated to make money? Are you colonizing America with a sense of serving the people, or are you colonized by a culture telling, take the money and forget about the people. That's essential because this is why we are agents of peace in our society. So education, and the last point that I wanted to add to this, there is in our way of understanding peace something which has to do with consistency. As I said, deeds, words and deeds, but also something which we need to get also from our religion. If you only respect the rules and don't get the meanings of the rules, you are not going to be at peace with your religion. Islam is not about obey without understanding. Yes, there are things we obey, but we understand why we have to obey. We don't ask why 5 times a day we have to pray. With our understanding, we understand why Allah is telling you, obey. Sami'na wa ata'na. But the great majority of everything that we have in our religion is understanding the meaning of what you are doing. Meaning and rules is inner peace, intellectual peace. But rules without understanding why we are doing this spread around a sense of guilt, not a sense of happiness. And this is a problem that we have in Islam. Peace is also about happiness. It's not also about obey waskut. Don't talk. No. This is why, you know, when we deal with Shura, for example, it's very much about the critical thinking. And the last point that I wanted to make about this is justice as well. And when we talk about justice, I heard Dr. Muzammil Siddiq is saying, you know, this is a great opportunity for us, living in the West, or living for you here in this society, to go beyond cultures, beyond races, beyond, you know, trends. That's a requirement that you should accept, that after 50 years, we are still dealing with this. I was coming on my plane, I heard about this movie, you know, 12 Years Slave. I'm telling you, I was crying at the end. I was crying at the end. I'm saying, we are still there. We are still us, Muslims, dealing with racism, dealing with the perception that we need to go beyond our, you know, nationalistic way of dealing with our cultures, coming from Pakistan, coming from the Arab world, coming from Turkey. We should do much more about this. We should very much be involved in justice when it comes to race in this society, but also justice when it comes to our way of dealing with ourselves as a community. Don't tell me you are my brother and my sisters in Islam if you are not struggling with your own potential way of being racist with your brothers and sisters in Islam and in humanity. This is something that we have to do much more about that. So we are doing a lot, but we still have to do a lot, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Still able to provide intellectual input after being on the plane for the last maybe 10, 11 hours and coming right away. He just arrived a few hours ago, by the way, just for those who don't know.